NHIS as a result of government arrears, weak banking system and unstable financial systems, and lest we forget, Mr. Speaker, Ghanaian businesses, big and small, were working only to pay electricity bills or to buy diesel for the generator. We cannot forget so soon the havoc that 5 years of doom so caused to household, businesses and all up and down this great country of ours. These are just some items on the long list of things that were broken and needed to be fixed. Mr. Speaker, within 2 years of the change, below are just some of the problems we have faced. A change, Mr. Speaker, that we can all feel. Mr. Speaker, a change in the management of the economy, a change in the management of the economy from incompetence to competence, a change from macroeconomic instability to macro stability, a change from a rising debt to GDP ratio to a declining debt to GDP ratio, changing from a weak banking system to a strong, well-capitalized and better supervised banking system, a change from taxation that undermines production, a change from a predominance, a change from a predominance of sole sourcing to competitive tendering in procurement. This change has seen the public procurement recognize, Mr. Speaker, that not a single pesewa was saved all the years under the previous government until 2017. A change, Mr. Speaker, from the manual process of clearing goods of its attendant corruption at the ports to a paperless process. A change to bring about a reduction in electricity tariffs. A change from doomsaw to reliable power. A change in the access to and cost of education, to social justice with introduction of free senior high school education, leaving, Mr. Speaker, no one behind. A change from the abolition of teacher training allowances to a restoration of teacher training allowances. A change from cash and carry in NHIS to a functioning national health insurance system where all arrears left by our colleagues from 2014 have now been cleared. A change from the abolition of nursing training allowances to a restoration.
Let us watch the language.
Of nursing training allowances.
Order. Order, will you go?
A change to increase the share of DHCF to persons with disabilities from 2% to 3%. A change in a moribund private sector to a vibrant job-creating private sector. A change from rising graduate unemployment to reducing graduate unemployment through programs such as the 100,000 strong NAPCO Core. A change from a dying colonial railway network system that is now being re-energized. A change from a stagnant agriculture sector to a revitalized agriculture sector under the Planting for Food and Jobs program. A change from destructive galamsey activities to a regulated small-scale mining activities. A change from the opaque allocation of Ghana's oil blocks to non-performing cronies to a transparent allocation of oil blocks to investors with the capacity to work the fields. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency responded and promised. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency responded and promised an innovative change to bring jobs and income to every district through one district, one factory. An innovative change to bring development to our rural areas through one village, one dam under IPEP. an innovative change to mobile payment interoperability, an innovative change to 3 development authorities to be a vehicle for accelerated development and the allocation of capital expenditure in our rural areas, an innovative change to the establishment of the Zongo Development Fund as a vehicle to focus on the development needs of Zongo communities, and an innovative change to the approach of entrepreneurship development through the establishment of a ministry and the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program. A major focus of the government in the last 22 months has been to clean the economic headwinds we inherited with the restoration and sustainability of macroeconomic stability as the anchor for economic growth. Fiscal policy has been underpinned by increased revenue mobilization, fiscal consolidation, and expenditure prioritization, as well as moving government policy from a focus on taxation to a focus on production. In this regard, government has implemented the following policies and measures. Mr. Speaker, we abolished excise duty on petroleum. We reduced special petroleum tax from 17.5% to 15% and further to 13%, converted from ad valorem to specific tax. In fact, it is important to note that petroleum taxes as a percentage of the total price build-up for petroleum prices has reduced, Mr. Speaker, from 40% in March 2017 to 26% today. We abolished levies imposed on KIA and churches by local authorities. We abolished the 1% special import levy. We abolished 70.5% VAT NHI on domestic airline tickets. We abolished 70.5% VAT NHI on financial services. We abolished the 70.5% VAT NHI on selected imported medicines that are not produced locally. We abolished the 5% VAT NHI on real estate sales. We abolished import duty on the importation of spare parts. We reduced National Electrification Scheme levy from 5% to 2%. We reduced public lighting levy from 5% to 3%. After 22 months of disciplined economic management, Mr. Speaker, the results have been quite remarkable. Economic growth increased from 3.7% in 2016 to 8.5% in 2017. Agriculture growth increased from 3% in 2016 to 8.4% in 2017. Industry growth rose from negative 0.5% in 2016 to 16.7% in 2017. The service sector grew at 4.3% in 2017 compared to 5.7% in 2016. The fiscal deficit was reduced from 9.3% of GDP in 2016 to 5.9% of GDP in 2017, the first time since 2006 that the government has met the deficit target. It is at 2.8% of GDP in June 2018, within the target of 4.5% of GDP in December 2018. Inflation, Mr. Speaker, declined from 15.4% in 2016 to 11.8% in 2017, and now stands, Mr. Speaker, in single digits at 9.5% in October 2018. The Bank of Ghana monetary policy rate saw a year-on-year reduction from 25.5% by end 2016 to 20% by end 2017, and currently stands at 17%. This is the longest 18-month reduction in the policy rate since 2001, an easing of 850 basis points. Interest rates on the 91-day Treasury bills declined from 16.8% and now stands at 13.4%. Ghana's trade position with the rest of the world has strengthened. The trade account recorded a deficit of $1.4 billion in June 2016, improved significantly to a surplus for the first time in 2 decades of $1.1 billion as of June 2017, and another surplus of 1.1 billion as of June 2018. Our gross international reserves increased from 6.2 billion in December 2016, 3.5 months of import cover, to 7.3 billion as of June 2018, 3.9 months of import cover. Ghana's debt to GDP ratio, which increased from 32%, Mr. Speaker, in 2008, when we were last in government, increased to 73.1% in 2016 in the NDC era, declined for the first time since 2007 from 73.1% of GDP in 2016 to 67.3% in June 2018. And for the first time in almost a decade, Mr. Speaker, Standard & Poor's upgraded Ghana's sovereign credit rating from B negative to B with a stable outlook in September 2018. These, Mr. Speaker, are remarkable achievements which we are determined to build on in order to improve the lives of Ghanaians. We shall not, Mr. Speaker, return to Egypt again. In preparing this budget, we undertook broad consultations with various stakeholders across the nation. Consequently, I present to this august House and to the people of our great country a budget that delivers on the hopes and expectations of Ghanaians, a budget that speaks to the needs of hardworking Ghanaians, a budget that enabled us to face the future with confidence, a budget that reflects government's commitment to building human capital through improvements in health and education, a budget that continues to deliver on job creation, a budget that provides opportunity for wealth creation, a budget, Mr. Speaker, that follows through on our promise to protect the public purse, a budget that creates industry, that modernizes agriculture, that builds infrastructure, that stabilizes our banking system. Mr. Speaker, this is the budget that small businesses will be happy, a budget that enjoins our citizens, a budget, Mr. Speaker, that enjoins our citizens to uphold the Republic and to at all times fulfill their civic duties as citizens of this great nation. A budget that promotes our commitment to sustainable development goals and takes fundamental steps towards a Ghana beyond aid, Africa and second in the world. So, after Mexico, to fully integrate the SDG framework, enabling us to track our financial performance in order to ensure progress on these important targets that affect the lives of our fellow Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, our 2018 Ajuma budget aimed to build on our 2017 Asempa budget achievements and put the country back to work to grow the economy, create jobs, and improve the lives of Ghanaians. Economic growth remains strong, and we are on track to achieve our key macroeconomic targets for 2018 and the medium term. This is progress we can all be proud of. Mr. Speaker, the Ghana Statistical Service completed the GDP rebasing exercise in September this year. As a result, our economy is 24.5% larger. This increase reflects economic activities that hitherto were not captured, e.g. natural gas production, or were captured with insufficient data, e.g. fruits, vegetables, mining, and manufacturing activities. The rebasing resulted in a number of changes in some economic indicators. The good news is that per capita GDP rose from Ghana 7,110 cedis to Ghana 8,863 cedis. On the other hand, with the expanded GDP base, the 2017 GDP growth rate of 8.5% was revised down to 8.1%, which is still the highest in recent years. We are fully aware of what happened the last time Ghana's economy were rebased. In November 2010, resulting in a 63% upward change, it gave the then managers of the economy a false sense of security. as the debt to GDP ratio was significantly reduced. They went on a borrowing spree, forgetting that rebasing also exposed how very little revenue we raised through taxation. Mr. Speaker, during the first half of 2018, real GDP grew by 5.4%, reflecting slower growth in the oil sector compared to 2017. But we are still on track to achieve our revised target of 5.6% growth this year. Much of the higher growth in the past 2 years reflects our prudent economic management and flagship programs that respond to the realities of the majority of our citizens. In addition to significant achievements in stabilizing the economy, we are on course, Mr. Speaker, to achieve our fiscal deficit target of 4.5% for the year, 3.7% in the rebase series. This would be the second consecutive year this government has achieved its fiscal deficit targets. Last year's target of 6.3% was surpassed to 5.9%. Our key economic targets for 2018 and the medium term will thus be achieved. This is progress we can all be proud of. Mr. Speaker, not only are we growing the economy, the Bank of Ghana has also done an excellent job in implementing monetary policy. This has resulted in inflation dropping to single digits, lower interest rates, and a relatively stable currency, despite recent turbulence in emerging markets and a strengthening US dollar. The financial system is critical to the functioning and development of the economy, and banks are central to our financial system. In addition to providing employment to a large segment of the population, the role of banks as a provider of credit and liquidity to the economy remains critical to the functioning of the economy. Mr. Speaker, weak macroeconomic conditions coupled with poor corporate governance and risk management in a number of banks over the past few years led to high levels of non-performing loans and abuse of depositors' funds through related parties and affiliates in breach of regulatory requirements. In addition, the lack of enforcement of the rules contributed to liquidity and insolvency challenges in the banking sector. As a result, we inherited a number of weak banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions, savings and loans companies, finance houses, rural and community banks, and microfinance institutions. This eventually led to an assumption and consolidation of 7 banks with potentially adverse consequences for depositors, creditors, employers, suppliers, and other stakeholders. It was critically important that these banks be made to exit the financial system in a timely and orderly fashion to avoid contagion for the rest of the financial system. Mr. Speaker, since the assumption of office by the current administration of the Bank of Ghana, bold measures have been taken to restore the health and resilience of the banking sector and to clamp down on unlicensed deposit-taking financial houses. In addition to the 2 insolvent banks that were closed last year by the Bank of Ghana, 5 more closed in August this year for insolvency and other infractions of the law. Rescuing the situation regarding these 7 banks has so far cost some 9.9 billion Ghana cedis in monies government had not budgeted for and could surely have put in good use to fix our numerous infrastructural needs, roads, bridges, housing, etc. The government has continued to provide assurances to depositors and customers of licensed banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions through demonstrable actions that their deposits are safe. Indeed, following the creation of the Consolidated Bank Limited, a wholly owned government of Ghana and licensed by the Bank of Ghana as a universal bank, the government capitalized it with 450 million Ghana cedis. In addition, government had to issue a bond with a face value of 7.6 billion to cover the gap between the deposit liabilities and the remaining good liabilities of the 5 failed banks. This singular action of government has reposed confidence in the banking system because it will ensure that no deposits of the 1.2 million depositors will be lost, and customers will continue to access their deposits without difficulty. Through government intervention in August this year, deposits of some 11 billion have been saved, as well as some 2,661 jobs, in addition to several hundred saved in 2017. The government's action has also created a strong indigenous Ghanaian bank in place of the 5 failed banks. The government is committed to ensuring that Consolidated Bank Ghana Limited becomes a strong, customer-oriented indigenous bank, well-positioned to meet the demands of all its customers and to serve as a go-to bank for financing small and medium-sized enterprises and corporate Ghana. Mr. Speaker, generally banks have made progress in repairing their balance sheets by writing off bad loans and addressing capital needs. Banks are far advanced in executing their plans to augment their statutory capital in line with the new minimum requirement, compliance of which is expected by end December 2018. The Bank of Ghana is also working on a comprehensive action plan for cleaning up the specialized deposit-taking institutions made up of savings and loan companies, finance houses, rural and community banks, and microfinance institutions. The government will support an orderly resolution of the difficulties and will provide the much-needed funds to facilitate prompt payouts to their depositors. Mr. Speaker, the government's financial interventions in the cleanup exercise have been necessary to help mitigate the socio-economic impacts arising out of the closure of the failed financial institutions. It is important that the cost of these interventions borne by taxpayers are recovered to the extent possible through recoveries from debtors, shareholders, and related connected parties who, through unfair means, siphon funds from the defunct banks to the detriment of depositors, employees, other stakeholders, and the economy as a whole. The Bank of Ghana has also, Mr. Speaker, set up an Office of Ethics and Internal Investigations to investigate all allegations of misconduct by Bank of Ghana staff, including any role in the collapse of the defunct banks. In addition to all these cleanups, government has also taken steps to settle all claims of DKM customers. Mr. Speaker, you would recall that DKM Diamond Microfinance Limited had its license revoked in February 2016 with considerable suffering imposed on depositors without any meaningful response from the previous government. That has significantly changed, Mr. Speaker. The official liquidator received 99,858 claims, and the validated claims amounted to 502 million Ghana cedis. I would like to inform the country that out of the 99,858 claims, 79,708, 80%, have been settled and depositors have been paid. The government has set aside funds at the Bank of Ghana to pay the remaining 20% of depositors upon validation. An additional 12,612 claims have been fully provided for, but the customers have not as yet been able to show proof of deposit. This means that 90% of DKM claims from depositors have been paid or provided for. Depositors for the remaining 7,568 claims of above 10,000 Ghana cedis are yet to reach agreement with the liquidators. Mr. Speaker, let me say how pleased His Excellency the President is that in 2018 and 2017, 271,000 young Ghanaians, 90,000 in 2017-2018, and 181,000 in 2018-2019, who would not have been able to access secondary education were able to attend because of free SHS. We cannot, Mr. Speaker, we cannot downplay how significant this is to building a future for every citizen of this land. Mr. President maintains that he would leave no one behind. Mr. Speaker, the days of an ailing national health insurance scheme are behind us. We have re-energized the scheme, which is now able to settle its bills, thereby ensuring that many more Ghanaians have